All right, welcome into another edition of Catching Up with Tommy Mack here on 1010XL's podcast platform, 1010XL.com, 1010XL app, live on Facebook as well, and here in the 1010XL studios, brought to you by my good friends at Team Tommy Mack, always there for you when you need them, and I'll talk about them a little bit later on, but proud to be the team leader of Team Tommy Mack and all the great team members that are part of it. Lots to get into on a Friday. Happy Friday to everybody out there. Talk, of course, last 2 days practice again against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll take a look at the offensive line, which still seems to be a concern. Little look around the National Football League, and we'll finish with who do I think has stood out during camp per position group. Not who's going to make the team, but who has stood out during camp, at least from my point of view. I've been to every practice except 2, I think, maybe 3 tops. I could have missed yesterday because they weren't in pads, but nonetheless, we'll talk about that. Let's welcome in our good friend Grammage, helping producing this show. What's up, Grammage? How are you, buddy?
What's going on, sir? I thought today could be a full padded podcast.
Full padded practice, no holds barred. Let's go. Yeah, I'm with you. Obviously, the big news yesterday is that both teams were not in pads. It was a second day of a 2-day practice session before they take the field tomorrow night in the second preseason game. Trust me, everybody was wondering what the hell was going on. Nobody knew that it wasn't going to be pads. I know all the former players and coaches on the sideline were like, what the heck are we doing here? Why would we even practice against another team without being at least shoulder pads? Now, I know they were in full pads. The Jags were on Tuesday before the Bucs got here. Maybe Doug said, I don't want to be in pads 3 days in a row. I don't know. Maybe it was decided upon before they even got here. I don't know. Nobody's asked the question. I don't think they've had a chance to. And I don't think Doug Peterson has answered as to why we weren't in full pads yesterday. Look, there's still value in practice yesterday with 7-on-7s. The coverage is still pretty much full speed. The running your routes, running your coverage, whipping the ball in there. You just obviously don't have any rush. There's nobody in your face. Even when you go team and you're not in pads, there's guys around, but you're not really worried about anybody touching you whatsoever, which for the most part in practice you're not anyway. But with that being said, I mean, look, yeah, they look sharp. They look fine. They look good. I'll tell you who stood out later on, but it's hard to really, measure that when there's no pads on. Look, day 1 against the Bucs, all right? I focused on the offense for the most part. I watched a little bit of the defense early, and then when they went to one-on-ones, I wanted to see our offensive line against their defensive line, and then I just watched the offense the entire time. The interior guys struggled in one-on-ones. Anton Harrison, total beast. Total beast. He could play left tackle today, I think. I think you could, I don't know if get rid of the other 2 guys, but you could literally move Anton Harrison over to the left tackle spot and feel pretty comfortable there. Look, the day 1 against the Bucs, I know the big talk was we got pushed around. Okay, we did in a couple of the team drills, okay, towards the end of practice. We didn't in early in the practice. They went 11-on-11 early. They did. We made some plays. It was fine. Our red zone 7-on-7 was very good while I watched one-on-ones. You could hear the crowd roaring. Then they went through practice a little more. Then they get to team. And team wasn't very good. Now, some of team was good. Down by the goal line, they opened up some holes. There was some room to run. Tank had a couple good runs. ETN had a good run, found the end zone. Granted, it's not full speed tackling, but they're thudding. The interior of the offensive line struggled against Vita Vea and company when it was a pass. And that's legit. And trust me, the sideline of the media, I don't know if the players felt it, but I sure felt it when that was going on, when our quarterback was dropping back to pass and they had to blow the whistle before he threw it, even though he threw it anyway, because he's basically sacked or hit or the play would have been dead. You heard that way too many times. And we're all like, oh, man, I thought this was all corrected. We're not expecting this, right? We get Morris. We re-sign our 2 guys. They're our guys. They've had a good camp. I know Ezra's been dealing with a little heel injury, but he's had a pretty good camp overall. And then we see what happens on the interior. Now, in their defense, if I may, you're going to game plan against a tackle like Vita Vea, okay? You're going to double team more times than not. They probably didn't do a lot of double teaming. It was probably pretty vanilla, okay? I don't know many centers or guards that are taking Vita Vea one-on-one and controlling him. I think he's that good of a player. Listen, he wreaked havoc on our offense for just 2 sessions like Chris Jones did a year ago. Remember what Chris Jones did our offense last year? Remember that? The defense
Remember what
tackle?
Vita Vea did to this offense last year?
No, right. And what Vita Vea did. So I think you game plan a little bit more against him. Is it concerning? It is a little bit, but the sky's not falling in my book. I think Morris and Sheriff will come around. Cleveland, I just don't see as a power player. I see more as a zone finesse style player. My concern is this. Injuries happen. So let's just say an injury happens. Who are we going with? Blake Hance hasn't shown me enough that he can be counted on as a full-time starter. Cooper Hodges hasn't shown me enough that he can be a full-time starter. Potential, yeah, potential. He's big enough, athletic enough. He's pretty aggressive. He seems pretty violent when he's out there. But he, too, was getting beat the other day. So just for the record, it wasn't any one guy. It wasn't just Sheriff. It wasn't just Cleveland or wasn't just Morris. It was a collective bunch. Throw in Hance, throw in Cooper. So, none of them really were that great. By the way, I have noticed, at least I noticed 2 days ago during one-on-ones, Morse had a hard time on the bull rush by Hamilton. He did. So maybe he's not that kind of center. I don't know. Maybe he's, it's practice and he's a vet and he can handle it, no problem. You know what I mean? Like he'll turn it on in the game. I don't know. My concern is, and I'm not overly concerned yet, but do we have enough? Can my backup guard step in and make a difference on this offensive line? Right now, that's a question mark. Now, in my opinion, I want to see Cole Van Lanen at guard. I think he's had a really good camp at right tackle.
He's been the main guy if one of the starters is not in there that goes in.
He's become violent. Now, maybe he was violent before he got here, but he didn't show it last year. But he's showing it this year. I'd like to see him at left guard and see or right guard. I don't care. Put him at a guard and see if he can do anything. Williams, the center, can he play guard? Because he is more stout as a player. And maybe guards a position for him. So I just, for me, I want to make sure my guards are good. I don't know if the starters are playing this week. I don't think they are. I think they're going to, have the night off for the most part. I know Trevor's not playing. Trevor, by the way, has had a very good camp. The problem is, even on the great throws against Tampa, 7-on-7, the bomb to Junior, everyone's raving about. You don't know if he gets that throw off. You have no idea. There's no rush. When there was a rush, they blew the whistle before he got it off. So the one he made to Brian Thomas Jr. down the middle during that padded practice was beautiful. He would have got killed. He would have never gotten the ball off Trevor. The rush came on him right away. The one he missed to Brian Thomas Jr. down the middle, just missed. He was under duress on that one too. So you kind of, it looks great because they connect. But would you even get the playoff in a game? I don't know. I don't know that answer. We'll have to remain to be seen. All I know is that Junior looks the part. Brian Thomas Jr. looks awesome. Trevor's throwing the ball very well overall. But will he have time to throw the ball is going to be the question. And we know this. So what do you do? What is the solution? Here's your offensive line. All right. We already know the starters. But you look at Darrell Williams, like I mentioned, Cole Van Lanen, Javon Foster. Could he play? Could you insert him in there? You're going to, look, at the end of the day, what do they always say about the offensive line? 5 best players play. 5 best. Are those my 5 across the board? Right now, as they have them. Cam, Sheriff, or Ezra, Morse, Sheriff, Anton. Yeah, those are the best 5 they've got right now to take the field for this team. I would question the guards. I would. Not necessarily Sheriff. I still think Brandon's going to have a big year. I think he's going to be fine. But we all know this. They didn't address the offensive line in the offseason like we thought they would have. By the way, you see that tackle from Oklahoma, what he's doing in Cowboys? Do you see what he did to Jared Verse against the Rams? I'm talking about Guyton.
Yeah, Tyler Guyton.
See that kid? You see what he was doing to Jared Verse? I mean, that's an animal. I don't know if we got any. Anton's an animal. Anton's an animal.
By the way, super quick side thing. Did you see the Cowboys D lineman push the staffer for the rant?
Yeah. Come on.
What are you doing, man?
No doubt. Somebody should have tripped him.
Like what? Like,
jumped on him.
Come on, man.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Guy's just sitting there minding his business.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Just doing his job.
Yeah, and then he ran away. Like he didn't stand there and because guys tried to get it, go after him. Then he just kind of
yeah. What an idiot. But anyway, sorry, we're talking.
Anyway, look, does Doug's offense call for maulers?
No.
Although Philly's line was really good and they were maulers. Why aren't we maulers?
I would say I've had this theory for a little bit on Doug's offense since dating back to last year when the offensive line really started struggling, especially when you got some injuries. I think Doug liking the zone blocking agile lineman is fine.
If it works, it's fine.
If it works. It's just incredible. I think it's a smaller amount of human beings that have that combination of that agility that he wants, that movability, that ability to pull, get out in space, and be big and physical enough to hold up against the toughest, biggest D tackles and nose guards in the league.
Yep.
Versus, I think there's a bigger pool of players that are big, mauling offensive linemen that might lack something in the speed and quickness.
Right.
But to me, just in general principle in football, I'd rather have the big guy that's a little slow, than the faster lineman that's...
Yeah. Well, you can't have a slow guy playing zone.
No, of course. And we're talking NFL players. It's all relative.
Yeah, no, I know. I know you're saying. Look, Doug's offense starts with the pass game and then to the run game. And the run game's to keep you off balance. And if I got you off balance where you can't pin your ears back, it's a pass, or it's a short yardage run, I'm just trying to use your momentum against you. That's what a zone blocking does. And when you get a big guy like Vita Vea in his zone blocking, the idea is to get him moving east and west, not north and south, right? Get him moving so then we can cut it back, and he'll never make the cut back. I mean, that's what the zone blocking is. Get him moving sideways so then we can find little creases, whether it's cutting back right up the middle or, front side. And when it's humming, you don't need road graders. Does it make sense? Because it's all about just getting in the way and that back hitting the hole at the right time, and we're moving at the right time, we're engaging at the right time, we're going off our double team to the linebacker at the right time, and that back's hitting it at the right time, and I don't need maulers for that. I need athletic, smart offensive linemen. Now, comes back to how you win. Well, my pass game went to shit last year, right? Because Kirk went down, Trev kept getting killed, and it just wasn't working. Well, then when that wasn't working, then the run game wasn't working, and the run game didn't do anything last year. And then they just were like, well, look, we're not afraid of anything. We'll load the box, make you try to beat us, and we're not afraid of Trev, beating us with his arm. We're not afraid of your running game. We'll load up. How are you going to move us? How are you going to move us? You're not going to move us because you've got to take somebody and move them, and you're not built that way. I think that's part of it. Now, you could go back to Philly's offensive line. Their guards, so I can't remember their names, they were pretty big dudes. They were big guys. Kelsey's not small either. Jason Kelsey, when he was playing, he was even more effective back then. They did it on movement, but they also did it on some grit and toughness. And for the record, okay, because I know a lot of people, you hear this, it's not everybody pretty much is a tough guy in the NFL. Okay, so it's not like you're not tough when I say you're not tough. You know what I mean? I don't mean street fighting tough. You know?
It's relative, like we just said. It's
right.
relative.
So it's not like going out in the street and kicking everybody's ass. I'm not talking about that. Like you could just you beat everybody up.
An undersized NFL offensive lineman is still a gigantic human being.
It's still a great athlete and
right,
still all that stuff. So, but when the other team is imposing their will, are you tough enough to stop it? That's what toughness is. And I don't mean just individually, but collectively, especially when you're an offensive line, because you're supposed to work together. So, with that being said, is there a concern going in based off of Tampa's practice? Minorly, yes. Look, I tell you, if I was I'm not overly concerned yet, but I want to make sure that we got the players that we're supposed to have. I think we do. Cleveland's a little. He's fine, but he's just not, and he's been hurt. You know, that heel's been bothering him. He's just not as physical, I guess you would say. Great athlete, can pull all that stuff. But again, back to the way they want this offense to run. It's not a mauling offensive line style offense.
When Ezra got traded to the Jaguars and Doug was on the Pat McAfee show and they asked him about it, what's the first thing he said? He's a guard that's built like a tackle.
Yeah. That's true. He can play tackle. He probably could play tackle. Ezra probably could.
Can I tell you what does concern me is I don't think it's maybe either one isolated, but them together concerns me. It's when you factor in the day in full pads with the Bucs, where I think the offensive line did really struggle against that defensive line and Villa and those guys.
Okay, just for the and they did, but it was in like a team period. It wasn't all day like they were just kicking their ass all day, but during that team period, there was a series of plays that he would have been sacked a half a dozen times. Probably. It was bad.
When you combine that with the fact that in the two drives that the starters played, the offensive starters played in the preseason game, they still couldn't run the ball.
Okay, I've got a theory on that.
They still couldn't run the ball.
Yeah.
Every time Etienne got a handoff, he scored on the throw.
Yep.
But every time he got a handoff, same thing as like 2 yards, 1 yard, -2. Like it was, they cannot get a push.
I think you only had 4 rushes total, or maybe 3.
It's a small sample size for sure, but again,
so,
these things are compounding, which is worrying me.
2 of those plays, which I've addressed earlier, but I'll say it again, were stretch zone running plays that they were called to the short side of the field. That does not make sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
You got to stretch. That's why they call it a stretch. You know, hopefully stretch them out and either find a gap or beat them to the outside, and you stretch that play out. So twice they called it into the sideline. So to me, that's a bad call. Now, the first one, because I rewatched the tape after the game, I thought Etienne could have cut it back a slight bit and gotten some good yardage. I think, and here's the thing, okay, just again, back to that timing. A lot of times we think it's just the O-lineman not doing their job. Sometimes it's the back not hitting the hole or seeing the hole and going to the hole at the right time, just when the blocking's occurring. That's one thing that's challenging with the zone blocking scheme is the timing of that back. Getting the ball, hitting the hole, making sure the blocks are set up. Just like I said, there's timing in, the guard hitting that nose tackle, getting up to that linebacker, and my back being right there when that happens, right? Because right after my guard comes off and I'm behind him, that backer has no chance. You know what I mean? And then I'm just right off his ass and we got something going. So I do think Etienne missed the first one. The second one, there was nowhere to go. Again, you went into the short side of the field. So I'm with you. It's got to be a lot better. But Tank looks like he's hitting the hole pretty darn good. Tank's had some success in the run game. By the way, they did have success in team near the goal line. They had a couple run plays that would have been touchdowns, for sure, the Jags. against Vita Vea and them. So they did. It was funny. They actually did okay against the run, it felt like. But that one team period against the pass, they couldn't stop them at all from disrupting, the backfield. So.
I agree with everything you said. That's a much more patient and fair approach than I'm willing to go right now, I think.
But you're going to have to change your entire dynamic of your offensive line if you want road graders.
And obviously,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're right.
So you're not going to
do all that.
You're not going to do that.
So really, more what I'm saying is like, like first week of camp, Trevor struggled, right? Threw a couple picks, whatever, was late, and we kind of talked about it on this show, like, is that a big deal? Is it not? Whatever. And then he came back, responded well, good days, things were like, was playing well, whatever. And that's normally the case throughout training camp. You might have a tough day here, a good day. There's ebbs and flows, right?
Yep.
It feels like with the offensive line, it's only ever ebbs for the most part. They have very short spurts of playing well. When's the training camp day that we've heard in full pads where we've heard, man, the offensive line's kicking ass today?
Yeah.
We haven't seen it.
No.
It's not happening.
No.
That's the one position group we've heard throughout camp. One day the receivers will have a great day, and then the next day the safety's got a couple of picks, and the D linemen a couple of days are playing. You know what I'm saying? There's ebbs and flows. The linemen, it just feels like they're just struggling.
Well, first of all, it's hard to really evaluate when they're going against each other because it's not full speed. The first evaluation was KC, and then the second one's Tampa, right?
Yeah.
So, but I agree with you. Look, we said it about the quarterback. When are we going to have the quarterback that's whipping around and make a ton of throws and make all these completions and look really good? Well, he has. Now, granted, it's been when he's not been touched. I'll give you something because I've been thinking about this. Let's go back to the 4th and 5 play against Kansas City where Trevor doesn't pull the trigger and takes the sack, right? And Ingram was open.
Yep.
Okay. This is all hypothetical, right? But let's just say last year still affects him, the pounding he took. And you can protect yourself when taking a sack better than you can trying to make a throw and leave yourself very vulnerable, okay? I'm not saying it is one way or the other, but just let me plant this seed in your head. What if the reason he didn't pull the trigger because he didn't want to leave himself vulnerable and didn't want to maybe get hurt? Is that a problem from last year? I don't think it. I'm not saying it is, okay? Now, if he didn't see him at all because he was open, that's a whole other issue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I didn't throw it because I didn't see him open. Because I was looking to my left at Brian Thomas Jr. and whoever the number 2 was, and I was thinking I was going to make a play there. They weren't open, and then I took the sack. That's a whole different thing than, I saw him open, but I didn't pull the trigger. Well, why didn't you pull the trigger? Well, I didn't. What would his reason be? I didn't feel comfortable pulling. Well, why? Well, because I was going to get drilled. Okay, well, that's a problem too. You know what I mean? Like, it may be nothing. It may be much ado about nothing. I don't know. I hope it's not, right? And then you want to get really hypothetical. Did they not go pads yesterday because there were problems the day before? I mean, look, Tampa had to agree to it too, I guess. I mean, I don't know. The home team says, did they go into it? Maybe they went into it. Hey, we're only going to do one pad of practice. We just didn't tell everybody. I don't know. You know what I mean? Because when Trevor has looked really, really good, he's been clean. And it's not like he's been bad when he's not been clean, but you can't count those. You don't count them because it would have never happened. It's great that he can throw it a million miles in the air and Brian Thomas Jr. can go run down there and get it when nobody's around him. But when do you ever have that opportunity in a game? You know what I'm saying? So, and I do think, I think Trevor's had a great camp. He looks fine. Look, and again, here's something. Let me throw this at you, Grammage. So I'm sitting there yesterday at camp with Rick Ballou, Campo, and Joe C. And I said, maybe we got something wrong here. We come to camp, we get all excited, we get all hyped up. But here's the reality. This team was a 500 ball club 2 years in a row, right? 9-8, 9-8. maybe that's the expectation. And if we get more than that, then it's icing, gravy, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? Because I look at this team now. They're not winning 12. They're not winning 13. They're not. They may not win 11. They may win 10. Could win 9. Or should win 9. I mean, they got a really tough schedule, so it's not like, you got any gimmies, which you normally don't. But Carolina was a gimme last year. Let's be honest. You normally don't have those, but they do happen. But I don't see that out of this team at all. I see what? Maybe a 10-win vying for the AFC South. And that's okay. Is that good enough? I win the division. I go to the playoffs. I don't care if you won 12 games in the regular season. I do care how you finish the regular season going into the playoffs. Maybe you're hot like we were 2 years ago coming in, and then taking KC to, a shot at the title. So maybe that's part of my problem. Maybe not yours, but part of my problem is you get so excited about the hype that you're expecting all these things, right? And then they don't happen because, I don't know, maybe we're not good enough in the O-line. Maybe we're not. Maybe we're not good enough on the defensive line interior yet. We think we are with Eric Armstead, but he hasn't even played yet. Right? What if he's injured half the year? You know what I'm saying? I mean, we just don't. So my point is, look, tale of 2 years. 1 year, 9-8, incredible. Oh, magical. It was everything. Next year, 9-8, ugh, what a dud. You know what I'm saying? So instead of getting all crazy like I do, because I get mad. I know Graham's mad as shit that they weren't pads yesterday.
I know.
Ridiculous. And trust me, everybody felt the same way. Yeah, you're like, what the hell are you doing? Why aren't you in pads? This sounds crazy. But it is what it is, And all we're gonna know is each time they take that field, what they're gonna look like, right?
Well,
I still have them going 10-7. I'm not changing that, but I don't think they're much better than that. At least at this point from what we've seen. And again, it's hard, because it's a microcosm of what we're going to see in the regular season.
Every good coach that I've heard talk about any type of training camp or just practice in general, any sport, anything, they've always said the goal is to make practice harder than the game.
The game should be easier than practice.
Correct, right?
Correct.
Taking the pads off, one of only 2 joint days against the Bucs, is not doing that.
Yep.
In my opinion, it's not doing that. And you're not going to be in pads all the time, every day. I understand that. I'm not advocating for that. But why would you, if you know you're going to have the Bucs in for 2 days, why would you go full pads the day before if you're not willing to go 3 days? It doesn't make any sense to me. And the offensive line could have done better, I guess, is the way we'll put it. The first day in full pads against the Bucs, that's a good defensive line, one of the best in the league. Vita Vea is ridiculous.
Yep.
It's not like they're going up against chumps. They're going against some of the best in the world. I understand that. What an opportunity it would have been yesterday to have a bounce back day in full pads.
Yep.
If I'm Rauscher, if I'm Sheriff, if I'm Morse, if I'm those guys, I'm saying, let me at him again.
Yep.
Like yesterday wasn't. I think they have the coaching staff has clearly made training camp this year much tougher on Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Agree or disagree?
On everybody. Yeah, but yes.
And Trevor specifically, and he's a guy we're going to highlight. They have made him better this training camp, in my opinion, because they've put him in tougher situations, and they have very intentionally quicker red zone period. We're getting straight to it.
Yep.
The things he's bad at, they've forced him to work through.
Yep.
I don't know that they're doing that enough with the offensive line, and that's a concern to me. That's the first thing in camp that's kind of made me frustrated about what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, we see what happens when our quarterback's under duress. It's not good, but that's not good for any quarterback.
It's not, and they're not forcing the offensive line to go through that enough right now to fight their way out of it and figure it out, in my opinion.
Well, look, I don't. If I'm Doug, I'm playing the starters tomorrow because we didn't go in pads on yesterday.
100%.
I would. I'd play him. I'd play my quarterback. By the way, did you see what Kansas City's doing this week?
They're playing their guys?
For how long? Did you see?
I didn't see, no.
A half. Yeah, the champs. Andy Reid, the greatest quarterback in the friggin' game, is saying, guess what? You're playing a half. Too bad. We got to get ready. It's I don't know. What do you think about that? Like, you're 2-time Super Bowl coach. He ain't cruising. He was getting pissed during the game on Saturday night. He was getting really upset. He did not like what was going on with his Chiefs. But that's what they're doing, Hey, at the end of the day, just win. And maybe your way works. And if it doesn't work, then we got to relook at stuff, and figure it out. But I will say this camp has been much more physical than it's been since Doug Peterson has been here. So let's see if that translates to the field. By the way, let's keep in mind, because I think this is important, you don't cut block during these practices, okay? There's no, there's no chop blocking. So you might chop block Vita Vea. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might go low on him.
In a real game.
In a real game. You're not doing it in practice. They don't allow that. So there are factors in. You want to see it better. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to give them excuses, but you want to see it better.
If you want a bench clearing brawl, cut block somebody into practice.
Yeah, right.
That's a known thing.
You can't do that. That's how you get hurt. So, nonetheless, look, it's got to be better. There's no doubt about that. Before I get into the who stood out at camp, I do want to take a quick look. Did you see what the Falcons have done lately? They trade for Matthew Judon, the pass rusher, and they signed Justin Simmons, all in a day's work. I wonder if Ryan Nielsen's going, damn.
Yeah. Like, come on,
what?
man.
What do you mean they're coming to Atlanta? But two really good players, man. I think Justin Simmons is still a great player. I'm a little biased because he's from Boston College. But Matthew Judon done in a third-round trade, and he's a beast. He can get to the QB. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, look, it's going to come down to the quarterback staying healthy. It's funny that the Michael Penix talk is kind of gone south a little, He's not as hyped up. I think Kirk's going to handle that all day long. Matt Milano tears his bicep. Of course, he got hurt against the Jags last year in Week 5 this year.
Sucks.
And now he tore his bicep. I've torn both of mine. It really depends where you tear them. But if it's anywhere near the elbow, you're done. You can't make a tackle with a torn bicep by the elbow. You can get by with one, like mine. Both of mine are from the second shoulder attachment, so you got another one that holds it in place. So you could potentially.
You got a spare.
Yeah, you could tape it up, But if you can't grip, you can't grab. It's hard to play football.
How long does that take? Do you get surgery to recover that? How does that work?
Well, some guys opt to get surgery. Some guys don't. They play with it.
If you get the surgery, how long of a...
You're out for the year. Yeah. Now,
that sucks.
Everybody that gets it from the elbow gets surgery because it doesn't reattach, and you don't have... You just can't. You can't use your arm. Your arm's dead, basically. So
that sucks.
It does. He's a great player. And Russell Wilson makes his Steelers debut this week. It's kind of weird, the Justin Fields thing. Did you see him taking reps at wide receiver? Like, kind of messing around, but you're like, what is going on?
Remember in OTAs, he returned a kick?
Yeah.
That's not not a good sign.
I tell you, Russell Wilson, we'll see if he can bring the Steelers back to better than 500 football.
Have you ever seen in the history of your affiliation with the sport of football and the NFL, seen a guy that plays quarterback get reps at any other position and then come back and be a successful quarterback?
No.
It doesn't happen.
Terrell Pryor? Did he try wideout? Did he stay at a wideout?
He was a pretty decent wideout, but he never came back to quarterback.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the worst sign ever for your quarterback career if they're trying you out of different positions.
No doubt. Better find maybe a different position. No question about that. All right, let's take a look at who stood out at training camp, at least in my book. We'll do it per position group. Before I do that, let's mention Team Tommy Mac, a great group of businesses that I personally endorse, and they're there for you when you need them. Get thrown in jail, Christmas sales bail bonds get you out in a blink. You need flooring, Carpet Man Flooring, the highest quality at the lowest prices for all kind of flooring. You need to get rid of some junk. You need your contract. You need some construction debris removed. You call my friends at J-Dog junk removal and hauling, veteran-owned and operated. Michael Nickus is State Farm agency. You need some insurance? Yeah, you do. Of course you do. He's got home, life, auto, and supplemental health, business, personal. He's been my agent for 20 years. Give him a shot. He's a great one, him and his team. Family Tradition Specialty Foods, home of Coconut Joe's. Hot sauces are on my table. They should be on yours. Put Pound Team Tommy Mac in the discount code bar on their website and get a BOGO free. Azar Sausage, I just heard they're in Native Sun now, so that's absolutely fantastic. They're in your local grocers and in Winn-Dixie, some of the best sausage you'll ever have. Homegrown, down home, third generation. Make sure you try Azar. Salt Air Inn and Suites, a boutique hotel, just 4 blocks from the Atlantic Ocean with concierge service. They're connected to Beach Life Rentals. That's the same ownership group. And they supply you with whatever, chairs, umbrellas, bikes, boards, you name it. They've got it all for you up and down the East Coast. Make sure you check out Salt Air Inn and Suites for your next stay. Newmark Phoenix Realty Group. I've known them for over 20 years, and they're the top commercial real estate industry, real estate company here in Jacksonville, taking care of it all for you, from industrial, commercial, office, retail, development, and investments. Make sure you check out Newmark Phoenix Realty. Freedom Finance, if you need a fractional CFO, you need a guy to come in and look at your books, help you get off on the right start, make sure you're fundraising the right way, forecasting the right way, give my friend Courtney a call at Freedom Finance. And Code Ninjas, get your kids into Code Ninjas, ladies and gentlemen. They've got 4 great locations for you, awesome programs. You're learning all about technology, coding, IT, security, building games, having fun, well-rounded, all at Code Ninjas. And, of course, thankful to be a part of the 1010XL family here in the podcast studios. All right, who has stood out at camp? I'll let you join me if you want there, Grammage, as we wrap up a Friday edition. We'll do it per position group, okay? We'll start with quarterbacks. I think all 3 have had a nice camp. I really do. The only critique I would say on CJ is either get the ball out quicker, you know what I mean, on those deep throws, or throw it farther. Because Brian Thomas Jr., although made a great play, that was a severely underthrown ball. It was. He made a great play. It was great. But you want that out in front. Duvernay made a great play on the ball. I think that ball was a little better placed, but I think you got to throw it out there a little bit more even to give him a chance. Other than that, I think CJ's had a nice camp. I think Mac Jones has had a nice camp. And let me tell you something. Game of inches, right, Grammage? If you make the throw to DeGuara in the end zone for 6, he's already my number 2, in my opinion. Mac Jones. What do you think about that? He had a pretty good outing the other night, and they like him, and they didn't trade for him to be the 3rd. They didn't trade for him to be the 3rd. They want him to go out there and win the job. I think this weekend will determine who's number 2, and the Jags expect Mac Jones to go out there and win that job. That's why they traded for him.
The only way at this point that I think Mac Jones doesn't end up being your number 2 by the time they play the Dolphins is, like I saw on Good Morning Football a few days ago, they were pitching the idea of the Vikings potentially trading for Mac Jones now that JJ went out.
See that?
In a circumstance like that around the league, where somebody might need a Mac Jones type of player that you could get for a 4th or a 5th or something, the compensation to us would need to be better than what
we paid. Yep.
But a 4th or 5th, I think the Jags would do that and pull the trigger, knowing you still have Beathard. That's the only way I could see, unless some type of trade like that happens, eventually they're going to either move Beathard to practice squad or cut him. Right. I think they'll move him to practice squad and somebody else may snatch him. And Mac is your number 2.
Yeah. You can't put Mac on the practice squad. Somebody will grab him.
Correct, yes.
But you can put CJ on there. Maybe somebody will grab him, but you're willing to take that risk.
Correct.
Because Mac's gone once you put him on.
Right. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think the quarterback's had a good camp. Trevor Lawrence has stood out the most.
Yeah.
The fact that the really, really, really encouraging thing about his camp so far to me is that they put him in tougher situations that he struggled with to start camp. He fought through it and has now been better on the other side. Yep. That to me is growth. That to me is a quarterback that is getting better. That to me is a quarterback that is being challenged on purpose by his coaching staff, figuring it out, learning through the mistakes, and getting out to the other side. That's a guy that's gotten better, in my opinion.
I agree. I think the critique on him would be that 4th and 5. Like, I'd like to know, why didn't you do it? Like, why didn't you pull the trigger? That's, because those are the throws that we want him to make, because that'd have been a great play. Not only a first down, but he had a step. He might have got some good yardage on that. So, again, he's done great to whatever they've asked him to do without really having to face a lot of, hits, pressure, that kind of thing. Does that make sense? We'll just see. I mean, that's for every quarterback. I mean, got to keep him clean. Got to keep him clean. All right, running backs. ETN's had a nice camp. Tank's had a really nice camp. He did put the ball on the ground. They were late in the plays. It's kind of like, I felt like he might have just thought the play was over again like he did last year. They tagged it out of him. It wasn't like he was running through the hole and dropped the ball, that kind of thing. It happened on a return as well, so he's got to hang on to the ball. Jalen Jackson is one of the surprises of the camp, number 36. He's had a really good camp. You don't know who he is. I didn't know who he was. But guess what? This kid can move. He's very fast. He's great out of the backfield. Made 2 great catches down the field the other day. One-handed. I think he might beat out Dearness Johnson. I do. Especially if he can help on that special teams. But I think he's had a pretty darn good camp. And I like Dearness Johnson too. I just feel like we were talking on Jaguar today earlier. If you go to him, he can help you a little bit. You don't want to get to any of those guys. If something happens to ETN, you just want it to be Tank and then one other, right? You don't want to get down to your 3rd or 4th running back.
Tank Bigsby, guys stand out to me in that room. He's had a great camp. Yep. He's been running like his ass is on fire every time he gets the ball. Yep. Return game, man, what a weapon he could be in the return game.
Yep, absolutely. He could have scored twice against KC. He was pretty close.
It would have been easy for him after the way last year went to bury his head in the sand and kind of, I don't mean to shout out people, but kind of go Snoop Connor a little bit and not ever really bring much to the table after that. But he's fought his ass back. Yep. I feel I'm ready to re-engage with the Tank Bigsby discussions and be comfortable with him being RB2.
I want to see him perform tomorrow night a little bit.
He'll get a lot of carries tomorrow.
And then sit him. Get his work in and then sit him down and make sure he holds on to that football. All right, wide receivers. I mean, the star's been the rookie. I mean, he's just open.
Can I give somebody else?
There's more, but go ahead.
Sorry. Agree. Brian Thomas has been, especially as of late, last week or so, man, he's looked good.
Yep.
Parker Washington.
Yeah. Great
hell of a training camp so far.
Yep.
He's all over the place making catches, man. He had the big return in the preseason game.
Yep.
That guy has proven to me that, now if one of the starters goes down or if you're putting that extra receiver on the field, not only am I comfortable with him, but I feel good that he's going to beat some guys down the field and make some plays.
Yep.
Great camp.
Well, and, now Kirk's got the calf, so what do we need Parker to do? Step in for Kirk, right? That's his position. He's like an understudy in dance, right? That's his position, that slot position. He does it very well. I'll tell you, he's had a great camp. He won't make the team. But Austin Trammell's had a great camp. Number 86.
Yeah.
Catches everything. He catches everything. He reminds you of Nick Nolte in North Dallas 40. Remember that guy, the white wide receiver that just caught you? Probably don't. Best football movie you ever watched. Rent it. Seriously. Better than any football movie you've ever seen.
North Dallas
Other than
40?
maybe Brian's song. North Dallas 40.
It's better than Remember the Titans?
No, it's not better than Remember the Titans. But it's a really good one. Definitely check it out. But he catches everything. Gabe's going to be a nice weapon. Over the middle. Tough, strong, fast. Yeah, he's going to have a good one. And Kirk's had a good camp minus the injury. We'll see. Of course, I think all 4 tight ends have had a good camp. Farrell is a beast. I'm telling you, that guy's blocking a beast. He'll get his catches on occasion. Ingram looks great. I think Strange has stepped up his game. I think the second-year guys, Strange, Bigsby, who else am I thinking? They've all
Parker, we just said.
Parker Washington, all have stepped up their game in year number 2 for sure. For sure. So that's been pretty good. On the defensive side of the ball,
no offensive lineman?
Well, we kind of went through the O-lineman, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
Cole Van Lannon, maybe.
I want to see him at guard.
There's not a lot of standouts, though, man. There's not a lot of linemen that I've said, man, what a great camp.
Right tackles can play guard for the most part.
Yeah.
Normally. Just want to see him. Look, get him in there. Give him a chance. You shouldn't be set in stone with anybody yet, other than your starting 5, maybe. Definitely with Anton. And then Javon Foster, I want to see him develop even more and more, because he's got some great feet. Great feet, which you need for a left tackle. Okay, D lineman. I'll tell you, The game, I got to go with Gibson and DJ Coleman. I think they've faded a bit, but Gibson's definitely on the team. He's going to be a stud. Mason Smith has stood out, the young kid out of LSU. Isezi Adamio has really stood out. Number 90, he's vying for something. I wonder if Roy Robertson Harris makes his team.
He'll make it, I think.
I mean, he's a good player. He's solid. I don't want to see him go. I just wonder.
Didn't they extend him after
coming up?
Didn't they extend him after this past year?
Yeah, they might have. Maybe
I
a
think
year
they
or
extended
something.
him. Yeah, it wasn't anything insane, but
I think Miles Coles looked good. The young kid out of the 7th round pick.
Mhm.
Was he at Arkansas?
that sounds right.
Yeah. Yeah, they got a good. I mean, Josh and Trayvon, they're ready to rock and roll. We haven't seen Eric Armstead. I think Mason Smith could be mine. Hamilton's had a pretty good camp. You know, again, it's so challenging when they go against each other to think how good they're going to be at going against others.
I think for the D line to have a really, really dominant type of year, which we think they're capable of.
Yep.
I think between Armstead, Devon Hamilton, and Robertson Harris,
Yep.
2 of those 3 need to like really be jumping off the page.
Yep.
I mean, preferably all 3, obviously.
Right.
2 of those 3, though, I need to know are like giving guards hell.
Absolutely. No doubt about that. Linebackers, I got to give it to Chad Muma. I think he's had a really good camp. They're asking a lot out of him, and he's responding. I think Ventrell Miller is a very good player. I think he's a very good cover linebacker. And the one who's really intriguing is Parker Jr., number 58. Watch him this weekend. That guy can really cover, can really run, and he's a little bit of a thumper. Pretty good player so far. I don't know if they'll keep him, but I think he's at least opening some eyes. And then there's Caleb Johnson, who they like on special teams. We'll see. Can either of those 2 guys beat him out? That'll be a tough race right there. I think they only keep 5. DBs, got to give Hallett a little love. Yesterday having 2 picks, you know. Jerry Jones is so good. Prince, to me, I mean, I know they like him and he'll probably make the team, but he's kind of fallen down a little, like fizzed a little bit against Tampa. I saw a couple of times he got beat. So I want to see a good bounce back from him. I think Tyson Campbell's had a great camp. He did great against Mike Evans past couple of days. And it looked like they moved him around with him for a lot of it. Not all of it. I think Buster's had a good camp.
He has.
Yeah, Buster Brown's had a good camp.
Up. He's
got better and better.
Yep, I agree.
He's got better and better. And Broswell has definitely had a good camp. Edmonds, you know, I think Edmonds should be on the team. I want him, if we need a safety, I think Terrell Edmonds can come in and make it happen. He's a big thumper.
He's a little Rayshon Jenkins-y.
Yeah.
Isn't he?
Yeah, a little bigger.
And I don't mind if he's not my starter, which he won't be. I don't mind him. I agree with you. Like coming in, maybe like short yardage downs as your safety.
I could see him pushing maybe Antonio a little bit.
Yeah,
for time.
But Antonio would still be your most likely.
Yeah,
he's at least the odds-on favorite, I'd say. But
he's had kind of a quiet camp, Antonio Johnson.
Yeah, he has.
That's not good or bad. It just hasn't been.
Yeah, as a safety, it can be good. Honestly, I mean, look, if Antonio Johnson is your cover guy, don't get beat, you know, just like consistent guy, and then Cisco's your playmaker.
Yep.
Because Cisco's been all over the place.
Oh, he's phenomenal. He's had a great camp.
Fantastic.
I should have mentioned Andre. Yeah, he's a beast.
I mean, that's fine.
Yep.
Have one guy that is an elite playmaker, let him roam a little bit more, and have the other guy that you know you can rely on to be in the right spot. I'm fine with that. That's totally fine.
Yep. I think Broswell's earned a spot. You know.
Do you think
Savage is the nickel?
In a really good defense where you've got good DBs across the board, are corners or safeties getting more turnovers? I think it's safeties. I think so too.
Yeah, because a lot of tips.
Yeah.
A lot of batted balls from the corners, you know, and the backers and that type of thing.
The great corners in the game shouldn't be getting thrown at a lot.
No,
it's the whole Trevon Diggs thing.
Right.
It's a lot of picks, but he gets beat a lot. Like that shouldn't.
Compared to Sauce, not getting thrown at hardly at all.
Tyson Campbell is kind of in that. I think sometimes in that. He doesn't get a ton of picks throughout the season. He'll get 3 or 4.
Listen, he's been right on coverage all camp long, so he's got to stay healthy.
And again, if you've got if I'm confident that most of my guys are in the right position, not getting beat super deep, not giving up anything easy, and then Cisco is my playmaker.
Yep. Yeah.
I feel good about my DBs at that point.
Listen,
that's one of the rooms I've been most encouraged about all camp.
Look, this team, and I confidently say they will be vying for the AFC South title. There's no doubt. They'll be a serious contender in the AFC South.
Week 2, week 3, 2 or 3 weeks left in the season.
Right.
They're going to be a player.
Yeah, I agree.
Whether they're the favorite to win it at that point or not, they're going to be a team that the other teams have to worry about.
They'll be vying for the playoffs for sure.
I think
they're good enough for that.
I think the Texans fall off a bit, and
I don't think they're going. But they were 10-7, so they're just like us. It's not like that.
When I say fall, I don't mean they're going to win 3 games.
Yeah,
I mean I think the edge is going to be taken off them a bit. Yeah. And I think the Titans are going to be more of a player than I think people are giving them credit.
Depends how Levis plays. Comes out. Same with Stroud. I mean, it's not different. Really, same with Trevor. If Trevor plays lights out, we got a chance, man. We got a chance to be a really good football team.
I know Vrabel's gone, but I still am just haunted by every time the Titans are counted out. That's when they play their best football.
I agree.
And I'm worried about that, man. They're the one team no one's talking about in the division.
Yep.
And they're typically on those years, that's when they make noise.
Yeah.
So,
well, it'll be here before we know it. Congrats to all the high schools that are having jamborees out there this weekend, games, what have you. Be safe, play hard, and hope you have a great time. That'll do it for me and Grammage this time around here on Catching Up with Tommy Mack. We'll be back Monday. No training. I think I'm done with training camp. I think it's over, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. Yesterday was pretty much the last normal training camp day because starting next week they're going to be more in real game mode,
regular season mode. So I won't be giving training camp reports, but I do appreciate everyone checking those out. I want to thank Team Tommy Mack, of course, for sponsoring this show and being a part of my team. Make sure you check out TommyMack.net, if you will. You'll see the latest from the horse's mouth. Me and Dave Campo sitting down at the bar talking Jags, and you also see the latest Catching Up with Tommy Mack right here on 1010XL's podcast platform. Until next time, y'all stay safe out there. Be cool, LFG Jags. Let's go, baby. Let's have a good outing. And, hey, listen, I know I talk about the starters a lot, but I know how important these games are for the backups because I was one of those guys fighting for my life back in 1995 and even 1996 trying to make the team. So all the best to everybody out there that's trying to catch their dream. It's not easy. And once you get there, man, just hang on to it as long as you can because it's one hell of a ride, no doubt about that. Till next time, stay safe, be cool. We'll see you right here on Catching Up with Tommy Mack. Peace.